Here we have VikaVolt V against Hisuian Goodra V-Star. Of course, we saw Simon in the very first round yesterday in day one, where we had a very interesting match, and now we're gonna close it out, see if he can make it all the way to the top 8 and try to bubble in. But this matchup is gonna be very interesting because the item lock that Cameron will try to apply on Simon will certainly slow his deck down. But if Simon manages to set up a Goodra V-Star, it's going to be on Cameron to find that extra way to find the damage to deal with it.
Cameron Shenoy, the final remaining VikaVolt in the tournament, trying to stay alive. And this is a deck that sometimes it really pops off. It's not on a lot of players' radars, and he's the only one who managed to survive to this point. There's the fist bump, and we are ready to go, Pablo. Who's going to go first here?
It seems like, I don't know, neither player making a move.
So I know, right? Where's the opening play? But it looks like Cameron is starting us off with the Mysterious Tail. Mew in the active spot. This is a great way to open it up, get a little bit more information about the deck before we move forward. You look at the top 6 cards of your deck, you get to pick an item card from that assortment.
Now, if you're Cameron here, you really want to try and establish that VikaVolt to lock Simon out of items. It's going to be aided by this Mew, of course, being able to retreat, finding pieces like Energy Surge or Quick Ball to get those waters in the discard pile so that you can Melanie afterwards. And it seems like Air Balloon is going to be the choice, as you do have to retreat into whichever attacker Cameron ends up powering up next turn.
Yeah, I remember when, Mew, Mysterious Tail, the Celebrations Mew was added to the game. Everybody loved this engine. Just put the Air Balloon on the Mew. It makes a fantastic pivot to just promote to the active, get an item card, and then just retreat right back onto the bench for free. So we'll see if Cameron wants to put that on the Mew right now, maybe save for a different target down the road, but indeed attaches that Air Balloon. This is going to give a lot of value over the course of the game, just having that easy pivot choice.
Yeah, now Cameron's hand is definitely very underwhelming. No energy attachment, no VikaVolt, nothing to draw with Radiant Greninja, so we're actually gonna see the fleet-footed to get that extra card advantage, see if that gets an energy or something that could help Cameron draw a few extra cards. Seems like it was the second Cross Ritual, which is a fantastic card, but not very useful right now.
Normally these VikaVolt decks are trying to do more of a counter box style. They're running all kinds of nonsense, but this is just a little bit more straight up, good cards, draw, get some value assortment. So a bit of a fresher take. When we head over to Simon, he's immediately going to start the turn off with Flower Selecting. 2 cards here, double checking the hand. This has got to be a tough decision, Pablo, and it's a water energy going to the Lost Zone. Time and time again, these Lost Zone players give up on early energy sometimes, making these hard decisions, and it can come back to haunt them in the late game.
Yeah, energy resource management is a very key component of the Lost Box deck, whether you're playing Goodra or any of the other variants. Managing your energy well can make or break a game, so very important decision making, and especially when you haven't been able to look through your deck as the Lost Box player, you have to make those choices based on percentages, right? Like how likely is it that, for example, I price my other 3 water energy? Probably not, right? So you can afford to Lost Zone 1. But when it starts getting to cards like Ordinary Rod that we just saw hit the Lost Zone, or other singles that you end up playing, like the Drapion V, for example, like you really need to play the odds in your favor and make those educated guesses until you can finally check your deck and figure out your price cards.
And despite kind of Flower Selecting to the deck blind, Simon is moving very confidently here. There's only 2 escape ropes missing. Could be a little bit awkward to get more Flower Selecting as the game goes on, but the Confies have done a little bit of work, and with Colress's experiment, we're 1 step closer to Mirage Gate, hopefully soon. Path to the Peak now hitting the board, going to turn off that fleet-footed, very important here. Also, the Radiant Greninja being held back by Path to the Peak, going to put a stopper on this value that Cameron Shenoy is working on.
Yeah, Path to the Peak, very detrimental, possibly for both players, since it does stop the Hisuian Goodra V-Star's ability to heal. It stops both players' Radiant Greninja, but overall, Simon shouldn't be too worried because Cameron got a very slow start, and with no concealed cards for Cameron, it's going to be really hard to even find, they don't have energy just yet, but even if they did, finding a counter stadium, finding that Melanie, finding that VikaVolt, I don't think we're going to see the item lock anytime soon.
If it just comes down to a showdown of attackers, getting through that Hisuian V-Star is going to be a big ask. Quick Ball is going to give Cameron a chance to look through the deck here, figure out what the move is from this position. The Path to the Peak limits the resources so much, and you have to make do with what you have access to. What do you think is the best grab from the Quick Ball?
Yeah, I mean, with no abilities, Luminion is definitely not a possibility. Crobat B is also not a possibility, so perhaps another Mew in order to have the double pivot, as one of them has Air Balloon, and they do have the Cross Switcher, but they do also play the Pumpkaboo, so that can be a way to counter the Path to the Peak, but that, like, with no energy in hand, they're drawing one card, right? So using your Pumpkaboo just to draw one card, is that really worth it?
This is how it always happens to us, Pablo. We get on the desk, and the players work their ways into this position where the difference between a good game or a non-game is one card. Pumpkaboo gets rid of Path to the Peak, and we're going to have Fleet-Footed for one draw.
Yeah, we also...
Is it an energy, please?
I believe it was Energy Search.
Okay, we're back, we're live, we're cooking.
Yeah, definitely. And I did see in Cameron's hand, they are holding the Forest Seal Stone, so that does mean they will be able to do something, right? They can search for the Melanie, they might be able to search for the Lightning Energy, depending on what they draw of the concealed cards. This is very important. You draw the unknown cards first, right? And then you see what you got, then you figure out what you're missing, and then that's what you end up searching for. So we could see Cameron actually be on the aggressive side here, but not with item lock. Maybe we might see an attack with Raikou this turn.
But first things first, it's going to be concealed cards, discarding that water energy from the energy search and drawing 2 Battle VIP passes found in Luminion.
So Luminion can now find the Melanie, guaranteed. The Forest Seal Stone could find the Lightning Energy necessary in order to attack. So very interesting spot here. And with this Cross Switcher, if Cameron is able to find a Quick Ball off of this Mew, then we might actually see the item lock happen right now.
Goodra V now into the active. Fantastic get for the double Cross Switcher to bring up that Mew. It's got the Air Balloon as well, so after this Mysterious Tail, we can pivot back into whatever else we need to. 6 cards now off the top. High chance of getting that Quick Ball, and there it is.
There's the Quick Ball, so Cameron has all the tools to start denying items. Gonna double check. That Crushing Hammer also could slow down the Goodra, and this is definitely Cameron's best plan. Trying to prevent the Goodra from being built up from scratch, and by denying items, you're denying Mirage Cape, which is the crucial item card that Simon will try to play in order to quickly power up the Goodras. Otherwise, they need to manually power up over the course of 3 turns.
If we can get that much value, 3 turns worth of item locking, that's not just keeping the Goodra under wraps, that's keeping Simon from getting so much, search into the deck and draw into the deck to just get other tools that are necessary. VikaVolt gets benched, Luminion V gets benched, this pulls the Melanie, everything is coming together as you predicted, Pablo, and the item lock will hit here soon.
Yeah, I mean, Cameron's best possible draw here would be a Lightning Energy, that way they wouldn't need to use the First Seal Stone. So that First Seal Stone ends up being a really cool wild card. But of course, you want to do as many other actions as possible to get the missing cards before you commit that, right? Because if you don't need to commit to it right now, then it becomes a resource for later down the line.
And Forest Seal Stone can be used under Path to the Peak, so it can be another desperate out since Pumpkaboo has already been used. Energy Search was picked up off the Melanie, so this can find the Lightning Energy. It's all coming together for Cameron Shenoy. We're going to have the attach for turn onto the VikaVolt V. The pivot from the Air Balloon Celebrations Mew in the active, and we're going to get that beautiful item lock up and running.
A very good turn by Cameron. What looked to be a very underwhelming turn 1 was fine, because this was a fantastic turn 2 for Cameron. And I've always had a lot of players ask me, like, is it better to go second with VikaVolt so that you can get the turn 1 item lock going? I always tell them no, yeah, because if you choose to go first, then you get an extra whole
and
turn.
The heads on the Crushing Hammer, taking away even more options for Simon to respond to this play. VikaVolt V comes out and Paralyzing Bolt deals 50 damage.
Absolute best case scenario for Cameron. No energy on the board, fully set up VikaVolt denying items, and yeah, we'll have to see. Simon did not play a Colorless Experiment last turn, so they know that 1 isn't in the hand, right? There's no reason not to play it if you're going second, so unless they top decked it, no switch, no escape rope, no switch card, no, anything can save this Goodra from the active spot, and we see the pass.
Massive 3 retreat cost means that Goodra V is stranded. Simon is probably going to have to kick back from this point, let this Goodra V goes down just to get a flower selecting back into the active and try to see a couple more cards. Speed Lightning attached to the Raikou V, drawing 2 more, and Cameron is sitting pretty. Still has the Forest Seal Stone pre-committed onto the Raikou, and is that a... Yeah, the Sky Seal Stone as well. We can't forget about that for the Mew matchup. Ooh.
Yeah, the Sky Seal Stone could come in relevant here if at any point a Hisuian Goodra V-Star is knocked out by either VikaVolt or Raikou. That would net Cameron an extra prize card, so something to keep in mind here. But yeah, I mean, on paper, right, Goodra is a very difficult Pokemon to take down for VikaVolt, but as we are seeing, the item lock can completely lock out the Lost Zone decks. A lot of the time they do rely on all these switching cards in order to get a lot of Comphase going, but with no access to Colress, then all of a sudden it becomes very, very difficult to do anything.
And Cameron is drawing so many cards in comparison. Another concealed cards. We've got the Zigzagoon working on more options. We've got a few more turns for Simon to get some draws in, try to find that Goodra V-Star, maybe Moisture Star to buy a little bit more time. But as the clock keeps ticking down and this Paralyzing Bolt stacks up and up, certainly that Seal Stone could come through.
Ooh,
another crushing hammer.
No energy for Simon, and I saw Cameron was taking time to read the Goodra attack. That attack would actually sort of benefit Cameron a little bit because it makes you switch your active Pokemon with a bench Pokemon, and therefore he could promote the Mew, get that pivot, find another item card, and then bring back the VikaVolt. So even Simon's attacks working against him a little bit right here.
So the Goodra V stranded in the active, and this is a fantastic spot to be in if you're Cameron Shenoy. We knew that this matchup was going to be a little bit difficult for the VikaVolt list, but you find that perfect moment to get one step ahead of your opponent and just keep them from participating in the game. The item lock can be so cruel to certain opponents in situations like this. Radiant Greninja's concealed cards being used once more. Just seeing so much of the deck, so many energies now in the discard pile, but it doesn't matter. We've got VikaVolt V set up, and this is all that counts. Another 50 damage through onto the Goodra V, and then maybe that Sky Seal Stone comes through to claim an extra prize.
It could, once Simon evolves, that could be something that Cameron can do. I did notice that Simon was holding onto the Hisuian Goodra V-Star, so this might be the turn where they choose to evolve and use the V-Star to eliminate essentially everything that Cameron has done. I also do notice they top deck the Colress Experiment, so a very good card to find right here for Simon. And the thing is, even though it doesn't look like Simon is not doing a lot, he's also not under too much pressure, right? Like Cameron has attacked 4 times and has still yet to take a single prize card, and that's one of the things that makes this matchup really difficult to predict. One side is denying the other side, but it's also not applying enough pressure to really worry Simon just yet, right? We might get to that point, but it's still not at that situation yet.
You give your opponent so much time to draw into outs like this, Colress's Experiment, and you know at this level the players are channeling a bit more of a, protagonist energy. They're going to get those draws when they need them. Capture energy now attached to the Comfey, and we can search for another basic here to get set up. Another Goodra V being pulled to the front.
Indeed, this other Goodra will be attempted to be set up on the bench. Of course, Cameron could potentially bring that up again. I think it would have been ideal to attach that energy to a bench Goodra, but there's no way to play Quick Ball or Battle VIP Pass anymore in their item lock. Therefore, this is the only way to find that second Goodra. So Simon might be okay giving up on this active Goodra, being able to promote the Comfey, get a few flower selectings up as well, and then apply a little bit of pressure with the Cramorant, which without a Zapdos in the field, the VikaVolt doesn't KO the Cramorant, right? So
yeah, even with weakness, still not strong enough.
They need the help of Zapdos or Galarian Zigzagoon, which I know is in Cameron's hand at this point. So that's one way to try to apply pressure. If Simon plays a second or had access to a second Cramorant, that would also be potentially good, but we see that they only play one. So the game plan is definitely Goodra, but the question is, can they eventually power it up without items?
The crushing hammers as well hitting has really delayed Simon to get any semblance of a threat from here. You have a massive buffer, and Simon is willing to accept that. Looks like might even be letting this first Goodra V go down. There's the pass of the turn. Just going to give up 2 prizes for the sake of kind of getting the initiative of promoting that Comfey and the flower selecting, as you mentioned, Pablo. As we're back over to Cameron, a lot of decisions to be made because this hand is enormous. Energy Surge to find one more resource for the concealed cards.
Now there's a cute play that Cameron could potentially make here, which is using enough scoop up nets with Zigzagoon in order to KO the active Goodra before committing their attack, right? So they'll be able to draw 2 prizes, Simon will be forced to promote something else, and then Cameron will be able to trap that new Pokemon in the active, or potentially use a boss's orders to trap the Goodra once again, or something like that. So that's a cute play. Even though Cameron's bench is completely full, they do have access to 4 scoop up nets in their list, which I don't believe they've used any of them yet.
Yeah, and no scoop up nets in the prizes, so they are all still available. Trying to get eyes on the hand here. I think I see 1 scoop up net on the very far left and alongside the Zigzagoon.
1 scoop up net and 1 Zigzagoon, so not quite possible yet. This switch card into a Mew could actually find that second scoop up net to make this cute play. The other question is that really necessary, right? Is that play actually necessary? They also have access to the Forest Seal Stone in order to search for that other scoop up net if they wanted to. So we'll have to see. Yeah, we'll have to see what line of play Cameron goes for. They could also save the scoop up nets as they're good to KO Comfey as well with the item lock and just take the knockout right here, which seems like what they're about to do. And that's what
Cameron Shenoy has so many options available and decides to just take a more straightforward route. I'm going to just take the knockout, especially since I already put so many turns of damage into this Goodra V. The longer I wait, the higher the chance is we get that Moisture Star to undo that progress. Just takes the 2 prizes, and now Simon getting a little bit more breathing room by having a Comfey in the active. Flower selecting comes through. 1 Chorus Experiment already hit. Can we get another?
Zapdos has also been unlocked from the prizes by Cameron now, so that could apply more pressure to Simon. But with no Melanie access, with no Raihan access, it's going to take at least 3 turns for Simon to power up this Goodra. Once they do, it's going to be really hard for Cameron to deal with, but if there's no Goodra to deal with, then Cameron is free to potentially take other 4 prizes without having to deal with a Goodra. There are 3 other Pokemon there. If Simon at some point ends up benching something else, then that could be a path for Cameron to take, just never dealing with the Goodra.
Temple of Sinnoh is now established as our stadium. Right now, there's not too much effect on Cameron's board. You know, that Speed Lightning on the Raikou is about it. But now Cramorant comes into the active. We have the scoop up net to make space for the Zapdos. Get that lightning symbol down to boost the damage with Paralyzing Bolt and get a return KO. Move down to 3 prizes remaining. But again, with Cameron's massive hand, access to Mysterious Tail, access to Forest Seal Stone, still a lot of decisions to be made before we even consider the KO for this turn. The Hisuian Heavy Ball comes through. There is 1 Mew in the prizes as well to be considered.
Yeah, now the Temple of Sinnoh could also come into play. Cameron does only play 4 Speed Lightning Energy and 2 Basic Lightning Energy. So if at some point Simon is able to stick the Temple of Sinnoh and Cameron doesn't have access to that Basic Lightning Energy, for VikaVolt to continue the item lock or for Raikou to attack, that could be disastrous. And there's 2 Path to the Peaks that Cameron can use to counter the Temple of Sinnoh, but there's no way to recover basic energy in this deck, or the basic lightning, because Melanie can recover the water. But with no way to recover the basic lightning, that's the last energy that's going to be available for Cameron. So this VikaVolt goes down at some point. No more item lock, it seems, unless the Temple of Sinnoh can be countered.
VikaVolt seems to have done a lot so far. Scoop up net on the Pumpkaboo is great. We can use that to answer a stadium in the future, but the bench gets refilled to use the lightning symbol from Zapdos to increase the damage of VikaVolt V's attack. 10 more damage. And then you apply the weakness and resistance, so it all makes it line up. Finally pulls the trigger on Forest Seal Stone to find 1 more card. And what is the missing piece here, Pablo? Another cross switcher or...
I generally don't think so. The
Judge is being eyeballed.
Bench, yeah, the benching of Zapdos indicates that they want to target the active, but combining this turn with the Judge, potentially taking away energy cards away from Simon's hand, I think that's the big thing. And this switch card also protects the VikaVolt from a follow-up Cramorant in case Simon does play it. I think...
Cheeky heal.
Yeah, exactly. Cheeky heal. Usually Goodra decks only play 1 Cramorant, but this is playing it super, super, super safe, and you get an extra resource off of the Mew.
One more card. It's still great to see. And with that huge hand, right, sometimes it feels so bad to say, I've got all these resources, and then you're shuffling it back into your hand to draw 4. But at the end of the day, if those cards in your hand aren't helping you, they might as well just go back into the deck. You're anticipating this match to be a bit more of a grind regardless. So with 4 cards off the top, potential access to Fleet-Footed and Mysterious Tail, still a lot more cards to see.
Yeah, Cameron definitely more concerned about denying the potential energies, as there was no Crushing Hammer here. So even though Cameron has done a lot of actions, is ahead in the prize cards, one single Goodra V-Star can be very difficult to deal with, especially with a low bench. Raiku's damage output is limited, Super Sap Cannon is also limited, or discouraged by the discarding. The Temple of Shenoy limits Cameron's energy, so he needs to continue to apply this pressure as much as he can and deny the resources by Simon.
Absolutely. We have to emphasize that, Pablo, that Simon is not out of this game. It looks bad, but we just need the Goodra V-Star to come through into the active, get some energies on, and start to attack. Simon has 5 cards in the Lost Zone. 1 Colress would put up to 7, and if Cameron misses that item lock, the Mirage Gate will be ready to go. Finds the second cross switcher off of Mysterious Tail, gets the Crushing Hammer, and it's a head,
3 for
and that's
3.
the scoop. Yes.
Wow, Simon immediately recognizing that he's out of resources at this point to catch up, putting that head flip just puts him 1 turn behind further, right? So yeah, very rough situation. What seems to be a good matchup for Goodra. Now Simon is down 1 game, 30 minutes on the clock. Still, I would say enough time to potentially close out the series, but a tie helps neither player, so I would love to see both players play a little bit faster than they did this first match.
Now that Cameron Shenoy's kind of demonstrated the line to victory in this matchup, he can execute on it perhaps a bit more confidently. Do you think that that was a low percentage to actually get that item locked so early against just the Goodra V? Or is there a chance we're going to see a repeat in game number 2?
I honestly think we're going to see a repeat. I think Cameron's deck is definitely built to favor that turn 1 item lock. It's not perfect, right? It's not maximized towards that. There's no 4 Mew, there's no 4 VikaVolt, there's no 4 energy searches, things like that, but it's definitely geared towards getting it like at least half the time on turn 1. Definitely a much higher percentage when you go first and getting it on turn 2. I would assume Simon's going to choose to go first this time around to get at least 2 turns of flower selecting, and if Cameron isn't able to pull off the turn 1 item lock, then that gives Simon the potential of 2 turns of flower selecting and the potential to activate the Mirage Gate before the item lock happens, which is the key thing that Simon needs.
As we head into game number 2, we have to also consider that Crushing Hammer. If a few more tails come up in this game, it's going to look completely different. But Simon does have the starting active Pokemon. He's getting ready to put the prizes to the side. And a mulligan coming out of Cameron Shenoy. Simon starting with 1 more card is going to be fantastic here. Double Mirage Gate in the prizes. And when you consider the implications of the matchup, maybe isn't too bad.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you get to play 1 Mirage Gate, that would be good enough. I think the key card here is the Choice Belt, because VikaVolt has 210 HP. So you're with that Choice Belt being locked away in the prize cards essentially the whole game, you're never going to one-kill that VikaVolt with Goodra, right? It might not matter, but if we're thinking about time and making sure that we can finish the game, getting a 1-kill on VikaVolt would be much better than 2-hit killing after leaving it with 10 HP left.
So after the mulligan, Cameron Shenoy is putting down the prize cards. Raikou V, 2 Raikou V in the prizes, so the lack of fleet footing could really disrupt the ability to get that setup. Speed Lightning also back in the prizes, so even less card draw to open up. And as you predicted, Pablo, Simon is going to go first here. And, going to consider the hand just a little bit more before the flower selecting. Has Battle VIP Pass.
Yeah, I would expect.
It's VIP Pass first, I was going to say, before you flower selecting.
Certainly. And I even think, like, in a lot of situations, you would go for concealed cards, but I think Simon has to recognize that energies are the most valuable things here, right? Simon needs 3 down in order to really apply the pressure and win this game. Therefore, every energy that you see matters so much. So yes, you'd get extra cards if you use concealed cards here, but with no other way to guarantee the energy attachment, I think that might not be the way to go, at least here. If on the other hand you had like 4 energy already, then sure, go for it, right? Give yourself or get yourself closer to the Colress experiment. But for now, I really prefer maximizing and really saving all the energies as much as you can.
And Simon agrees with you, Pablo. Going to pull out that Cramorant, is going to try to get as much value out of his Comfeys as possible. We've got 2 possible flower selectings here and a little bit more besides. Once Cameron's been passing the deck back, 2 cards off the top. One's going to go to the Lost Zone and 1 to the hand. Comfey number 3 to the Lost Zone. I believe that was a Colress.
Colress, yeah, I think
Beautiful.
So. And if you come to this tournament with a little bit of knowledge on the VikaVolt deck, you know that they usually play 1 Judge, sometimes 1 Judge on 1 Marnie, but very little disruption. So keeping that Colress in hand will certainly be good.
And picks up an energy from the second flower selecting. So everything seems to be coming together. We got the Goodra V, turn 1 attachment perhaps. It's difficult. Do you attach to the Goodra V, or are you going to do attach, retreat onto the reset Comfey?
Oh no, you certainly want to attach.
There we go.
Yeah, you certainly want to keep all your attachments for Goodra. Like, it's not even worth.
Yeah, have your cake and eat it too. Double V-Star being offered. 1 goes to the Lost Zone.
Definitely not worth it to choose to attach retreat, because then that's 1 turn you're behind in the attachments, right? If you assume that your opponent, you have to prepare for the worst, and the worst is the turn 1 item lock. Therefore, every single energy you don't attach to a Goodra is a turn you're already behind. And this path to peak is really good because that also stops Cameron from using concealed cards, so further delaying their potential strategy.
So Simon off to a much better start. 3 cards in the Lost Zone. Has Colress's experiment in hand already. Cameron Shenoy opens up with Battle VIP Pass. Can look through the deck here and is going to see that both Raikou V are in the prizes. Is going to have to shift gears here.
Yeah, with both Raikou V in the prizes, that really limits Cameron's damage output. It's mainly VikaVolt, and that's going to be it.
So what's the play? Is it just VikaVolt and Zapdos here? Just start knocking on the door with a paralyzing bolt?
Yeah, I mean, I think you really want to try and delay, right? As much as you can, prevent those item cards, because Simon already has 3 cards in the Lost Zone. So if you don't get the item lock right now, a Colress and a couple Comfeys, that's 7. And that means that turn to Goodra V-Star is very likely. So Cameron really relies on this turn 1 item lock. Otherwise, we might actually see a very quick game 2.
And that's exactly what Simon needs, is for this game 2 to be a blur and head immediately into game 3, so the players have plenty of time to conclude this best of 3.
We're looking at Greninja and VikaVolt. There is the Pumpko in hand to take away this path to a peak. So I can't tell if Cameron already has all the cards necessary in order to pull off the turn 1 item lock, or if they're missing something like the Melanie perhaps. That's where the Mew Mysterious Tail ability might help with a quick ball or the pivot that they might be missing. But first we're going to draw with concealed cards. See those 2 cards, see what we're missing, and then try to find the other missing pieces.
And let's go. So fortunate to have the Pumpkaboo in the hand here. Oh, close. Close. Yeah, Pumpkaboo first. Bump path to the peak. Yeah. Then we concealed cards. And these 2 off the top, incredibly important, Pablo.
Okay, we're looking for Melanie. We're looking for an Air Balloon potentially, but especially the Melanie. And we see a Speed Energy. Nice.
2 more from the top. A lot of shots at getting exactly what you need. With the path to the peak gone, VikaVolt in the active. Could maybe get the Forest Seal Stone. A lot of options to tie this turn together.
Yeah, Cameron actually, has the Luminion. Will be able to find the Melanie. And I'm pretty sure I saw a Scoop Up Net in their hand. So the turn 1 item lock is now very much guaranteed to potentially try and slow Simon. You would expect, if the universe tries to balance itself out, that we would see a few Crushing Hammer tails here. But it honestly might come down to the hammers to decide who wins this match.
Yeah, is it variance, or is Cameron Shenoy the main character? We're going to get confirmation on that in just a second, Pablo. After 3 more cards drawn, every draw from Shenoy has been so glorious, needing these very specific cards at the right time. It's all coming together. There's the Scoop Up Nets, as you mentioned. Cross Switcher in the hand. Hasn't used Mysterious Tail yet, so can see another card from the top 6.
Yeah, this is where we could potentially see that Crushing Hammer They also really want Zapdos to increase the damage output and potentially get a KO on the Comfey as well. But Crushing Hammer. Crushing Hammer is a card that you don't get that, you don't get to delay the Goodra, then you're one turn closer to getting your damage output basically zero. Yeah, it doesn't matter if you're item locking your opponent if you're doing 0 damage to their main attacker.
If the Crushing Hammer doesn't get this Goodra V, there's a chance a second Goodra V is benched with a manual attachment return. And
That's
heads!
4 out of 4 on the Hammer heads. That is incredibly unlucky for Simon. What is going on?
And then the double cross switcher. This is a repeat of game 1. VikaVolt comes into the active spot. No Zapdos on top of this, so it's still going to be a long grind of 50 damage after 50 damage. But at least with items out of the equation, these two Comfeys are going to be stuck behind this massive 3 retreat Goodra V in the active.
What a turn by Cameron. This was like the best case scenario possible. Drew all the cards in the right order, found the VikaVolt turn 1 item lock, and now Simon will be able to get more cards in Lost Zone, more resources through this Colress, but the cards in Lost Zone don't make a difference anymore if you can't switch out the Goodra and if you can't use Mirage Gate to power it up.
Making a very tough choice here. Mirage Gate and Scoop Up Net go to the Lost Zone.
Yeah,
there's 2 escape ropes right now in the prizes. Is that still game 1? Let me double check here. Yeah, game number. Yeah, I was looking at the game 1 prizes still. Game 2, there's 2 Mirage Gates.
Yeah, there's 1 Mirage Gate left in Simon's deck if he ever has the chance to use it. No way to switch out this Goodra out of the active
like a big
spot. Yeah, so this big delay. Simon could choose to bench another Goodra instead of attaching to the active. I'm not sure how big of a fan I am about this, but the Temple of Sinnoh. The Temple of Sinnoh makes the speed energy attached to VikaVolt right now count as a colorless energy, so Cameron needs to find a way to counter that by recycling the Pumpkaboo with a Scoop Up Net or attaching the basic lightning energy to continue the item lock.
And if you give Cameron Shenoy a chance to get a card that's missing from the turn 1 attack or getting the item lock set up, he's responded and come up on top every single time. Concealed cards now to draw 2 more from the top of the deck. This hand is massive. He's holding it just out of frame, building up that suspense. We'd have to find a basic lightning energy to keep the the item lock up. Forest Seal Stone I see in the hand. Melanie also coming through to reattach that water energy from the discard pile. 3 more cards drawn from the top. A lot of resources still being seen here.
Yeah, Cameron really has access to everything he could possibly want. There's the Force Seal Stone, there's Scoop Up Nets to recycle the Pumpkaboo, so could just counter the stadium, could also directly search for the lightning energy. We'll have to see what they choose to do here. But Cameron, honestly, it can't get any better for Cameron. You're fully delaying Simon. They barely have energy attached. There's the counter to the Temple of Sinnoh through the use of Scoop Up Net. So the item lock will continue, but no energy denial. That is the big thing here. Unless you decide to use the Force Seal Stone for a Crushing Hammer.
Forest Seal Stone, Crushing. No, okay, doesn't go for it. You'd be feeling yourself way too hard, I think, if you were going for the Crushing Hammer there.
It might be worth it next turn. The damage that Goodra does this upcoming turn, if Simon has a water energy, is not that impactful.
Oh, but just drawing a pass. Oh no, just looking at the discard pile. For a second, I was like, oh no.
No, not quite at that stage yet. The item lock is strong, but not that strong just quite yet. Simon does have quite a few resources in their hand. Not sure if I see another energy though. Does have a Luminion for a potential Colress experiment that will allow them to search for more and more resources, but this is something that you rely on items so much that all of a sudden VikaVolt comes here with a Paralyzing Bolt and half of your deck just doesn't work.
Seeing 5 cards from Colress experiment could completely shift this matchup. We've got to find the water energy at the very least, get some damage on the VikaVolt V, try to put some counter pressure on Cameron Shenoy before it's too late. This game is playing out a little bit too similarly to game number 1, and Simon really has to shift gears here and change his fate. 5 cards now from Colress's experiment. There's the water energy.
Yeah, a few energies there. The Temple of Sinnoh as well, which is very important to potentially continue or try to deny the item lock for at least a turn, but we know from Cameron's hand that they are holding an extra, at least one more scoop up net to recycle Pumpkaboo. I don't think I've seen Pumpkaboo used more than once in a single game, and it might actually be used 3 times in a single game right now.
When you get set up so quickly, you have the luxury of using your scoop up nets to respond to the opponent, right? Sometimes a lot of decks have to get very precious with the scoop up nets, or they're desperately drawing for one in order to make a certain play, but now you're just kind of relaxing. Now finally up to 7 cards in the lost zone for Simon. If this item lock is broken, Mirage Gate will be online. But reminder, there's only 1 more Mirage Gate in the deck. There's 2 in the prizes, 1 in the lost zone.
Yeah, Temple of Sin also hitting the lost zone, so not going to be used as a resource. I think the other choices were Colress, Water, and Goodra for Simon, so definitely a tough choice. But we do see the second attachment, so getting closer to that ideal potential setup. This will also send the VikaVolt to the bench and probably prompt a promotion from Cameron on the Mew. There we go. Yeah, both players reading the card just to make sure that that is what it does. Or is it optional? No, it's not optional.
All right, Slip and Trip brings Mew into the active. This is great. You get to use the Mysterious Tail right at the beginning of the turn, maybe concealed cards, so it's very easy to get access to the air balloon and just pivot away from this Mew.
Yeah, retreating Mew is definitely not a difficult thing for Cameron to accomplish. What they're looking for right now is potentially another basic lightning energy in order to knock out this Goodra. That's another way you can get rid of energies, right? So I do think Simon might have benefited a little from benching the other Goodra just in anticipation of this situation. But of course that would give Simon a turn of items. So Cameron really has to make that important decision. Do you go for the KO on the Goodra, or do you continue to item log at the risk of the Goodra V-Star finally showing up fully powered up if you don't get a Crushing Hammer head flip here?
And Cameron, over the course of Game 1 and into Game 2, when he's in a strong position to maybe take a riskier line like that, does opt for the more straightforward play. And in game number 1 did the same thing, right? Didn't want to take the risk of Goodra V-Star coming through, so we could see the big knockout with the Super Zap Cannon.
Yeah, now we did see, I mean, Cameron was sort of lining up a VikaVolt with an energy on their hand, so that we might see the continuation of the item lock. It also benefits Cameron for this game to continue to drag on and for actually to not finish, right? So there's no need for Cameron to sort of be risky, try to take this KO and then all of a sudden be overwhelmed by item cards, because of course he doesn't know that Simon only has access to 1 Mirage Gate anymore.
Yeah, very important to note. The players are trying to explore every angle of getting victory. We've got to remember to shuffle the deck as well after getting that air balloon. It looks like Cameron's going to go right back in with the quick ball. There we go.
Yeah, air balloon in the hand. We see the 3 Crushing Hammers still available, 2 of them at the very bottom
terrifying.
of the deck. We're going to see the Zapdos here potentially to do a little bit of extra damage, putting the Goodra in a situation where if they don't heal or evolve or use the second attack that they have, they will go down to 2 more attacks of the item lock. But we're gonna see the attachment. So as I was mentioning, Cameron gonna take the risk of opening up items for Simon, but with no Goodra in play, there's no risk to doing this of a Goodra V-Star. We'll have to see, and Simon might actually end up regretting sending that Mirage Gate to the Lost Zone that they found at some point. But yeah.
Ooh, Forest Seal Stone also being activated to get another card. And what is the missing piece from here, Pablo? Maybe this is where we find the Crushing Hammer to respond to the next idea. Judge!
Judge, I like the Judge, because with the Crushing Hammer, I feel like if you were going to go for the Crushing Hammer, you would have done that before you commit the attachment.
Yeah.
If you flip heads, then you don't attach there. But with the Judge, you're really denying Simon's potential to respond to this. Effectively, the VikaVolt is out of range of damage from Kremlin, but if Simon is
just
somehow...
activates the Judge. I was hesitating on the scoop up net there to maybe bring the Pumpkaboo back in, shuffle it into the deck. Do you agree with that? Or?
I mean, potentially, since you'd have that extra space to bench the other VikaVolt in case there is a response to the one right here. It will also open up the bench space to bench Zigzagoon to deal KO on the comp phase with the item lock attack. But yeah, it's an extra resource that you wouldn't be thinning the deck by doing that, because the Pumpkaboo would be going back into the deck. So it doesn't really benefit Cameron in that way, but the bench space definitely being opened up could lead to some cool plays with the Zigzagoon especially.
And so with the 2 scoop-up nets just being shuffled back into the deck, I guess with Mew's Mysterious Tail, it is a wash. There's some very specific card game math to be done there. But at the end of the day, it's not really much about Cameron thinning correctly. It's about taking the big risk into what Simon might have to respond to this. VikaVolt V comes back into the active, is prepped and ready to go for Super Zap Cannon, and here's the choice: 2 prizes or item lock.
Yeah, Cameron seems like he's having a hard time deciding, even though he was sort of committed, but actually chooses to continue the item lock.
Okay.
I am very surprised by that.
So just wants the basic lightning just in case of Temple of Sinnoh, I suppose?
Yeah, in case of Temple of Sinnoh. But, I mean, if Simon found the energy, I'm not sure if there's a Goodra V-Star in their hand.
Not after that judge.
There's a regular Goodra, though. Oh, I mean, that was
my
an
goodness! Finally,
interesting play by Cameron. Not what I expected, especially after they committed that energy. Not what I expected.
Temple of Sinnoh comes through. We've got the manual attached to the Goodra V.
And rolling
no
shell. 10 damage away from knocking out that VikaVolt. That's 140 plus 60 that they already had. That's 10 HP away from getting KO'd, but it takes 30 less damage. So now VikaVolt cannot take the KO on the Goodra with the item lock attack.
It cancels out that lightning symbol as well. You know, just the item boost, it just doesn't matter anymore. So giving up on that knockout means that it's going to be denied for an additional turn. Cameron put a lot of faith into that judge to really stifle Simon's response, but he had that water energy off the top. And now that we're back over to Cameron's court, we've got Boss's orders to bring up the Luminion V. So is this going to be the Super Zap Cannon? Maybe try for 2 prizes? Try to move the game state forward. 9 minutes left on the clock. No prizes yet taken.
It seems like Cameron's trying to make the game drag on as much as possible and try perhaps to run out the time with all these actions, making sure that they don't KO. They also couldn't use the Super Zap Cannon because of the Temple of Sinnoh, making that speed energy not providing the lightning energy.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you were gonna spend those energies and discard those resources, I feel like the time to do it was the turn before, to just eliminate that Goodra, right? As long as there's no Goodra with energy, then you're fine, right? But yeah, very interesting situation here. Very interesting choices by Cameron and Simon, just holding out hope. They're down 1 boss's orders. They're down 2 cross switchers. So if this Goodra survives, it could get a little tricky for Cameron here.
Cameron shuffled those scoop-up nets back into the deck. The bench is full. There's no second VikaVolt V to take over for this one that has 10 HP remaining. Finally gets the knockout with that paralyzing bolt. Luminion V goes to the discard pile. And Cramorant seems to be elected as the new active Pokemon. So I'm going to take a moment to consider.
Yeah, Simon doesn't know what Cameron has in their hand. I do like using the Cramorant for the KO right here as a way to protect the Goodra that has taken so long to power up, right? But this might finally be the breakthrough turn for Simon, taking down that VikaVolt. Cameron's hand is not that great. The Temple of Sinnoh still in play, denies the speed energy that Cameron has. So we just see the knockout, and we see finally Simon get on the board on the prizes.
Yep, capture energy and switch grabbed off of the prizes. Cameron gets the easy pivot of Air Balloon onto Mew. Draw for turn. Mysterious Tail is still on the table. We've got Melanie in the hand to get some attachment. Now there is bench space opened. We can try to get the second VikaVolt. Water energy discarded for concealed cards, drawing 2. Every single concealed cards has been so impactful for Cameron, it seems, combined with the Mysterious Tail. It has so much consistency for this deck. VikaVolt V number 2 hitting the bench. The basic lightning now in the discard pile gets very muddy from this point.
Yeah, the Cameron needs to find a counter stadium. They do have the speed lightning, but no scoop up net, no path to a peak yet, so no way to counter that. And if they can't find... they found the scoop up net to recycle the Pumpkaboo though, so they will be able to continue the item lock here.
Pablo seeing so deep into the future this game, predicts Pumpkaboo number 3 with the scoop up net from Melanie. It claims another stadium. This Pumpkaboo is just kaiju size, just smashing through all of these temples.
Really is. There's different sizes of Pumpkaboo, right, in the video game. So this is the XL one, right? It still has one more use.
It's coming right for us, Pablo. The temples are not safe from the Pumpkaboos. Pumpkin Pit ability. But again, Mew is got the air balloon, can pivot out of the active. Cameron right now is just seeing what is the most obnoxious play from this point. How can I item lock my opponent, really frustrate their ability to stay in this game? Goodra V has 3 energies attached, is heavily damaged, but Simon needs to find the Goodra V star in order to heal this damage off, just to keep Cameron from taking even more prizes potentially.
Now I know Cameron is holding a Crushing Hammer, and this might be the most important Crushing Hammer of the whole series, unless, ooh, that's the second copy of Cross Switcher. That might be the KO on the Goodra. That's even better than the Crushing Hammer.
Get rid of 3 energies, why don't you? The Mysterious Tail has been absolutely delivering. Hot and fresh directly to your doorstep. Every item card that Cameron Shenoy needs.
Wow, this would be really, really sad for Simon. Finally, potentially being free from the item lock. No, we see the Cross Switcher. And I think that might spell disaster for Simon, like powering up another Goodra is going to take 3 more turns, and by that time you have Comphase and Cramorant's just going down to the item lock. I don't know what they can do here to really survive. Maybe the 3rd Temple of Sinnoh could be the saving grace, but I think it's in the loss zone.
Yeah, now we've got VikaVolt V with Zapdos backing it up. We can get the 1-turn knockout on the Cramorant as well. 2 prizes remaining, 4 minutes left on the clock. We thought that Cameron might try to run it down to 0, but can just take 2 easy knockouts from here. There's 1 Goodra V in Simon's hand, and not much else, it seems. Flower selecting could make or break.
I'm not sure what Simon could find here in order to get back into this game. Maybe the Roxanne, but the Roxanne is also stuck in the prize card, so no way for Simon to really disrupt. Well, there's 2 copies of Roxanne actually, so maybe with Roxanne he could do something here by denying, but not getting attached on the Goodra. That's just like, now it's even more turns to be able to attack with the Goodra, and with Cameron being at 2 prizes left with 4 minutes on the clock, I'm not sure what can be done at this point.
Radiant Greninja grabbed off the capture energy, trying to see a few more cards. Roxanne and Prey is a line that a lot of players have been forced to take, and it never feels good when you leave things in the hands of your opponent's top deck power. This is combined with Mysterious Tail, still seeing more cards. The Raikou Vs were still pulled off of the prizes, so fleet-footed also lets you draw out of that situation. Another flower selecting after the manual retreat. Quick Ball goes to the lost zone. 9 cards there, but no Mirage Gate to capitalize on this regardless.
Alright, so Simon did find a Boss's Orders off of that second flower selecting. In an ideal world, you could use Boss Orders to strand the Zapdos or the Pumpkaboo in the active, but I know Cameron has their 4th Scoop Up Net in the active, so it would be really impressive to see Scoop Up Net being used so many times on a single Pumpkaboo.
It just lives, and it comes with its own net at this point.
It's just a pass though from Simon. No aggression, no attack from Cramorant, no benching and attaching to the Goodra, so not sure what else can be done at this point. Cameron's going to go ahead and continue to item lock. They could also use the 4th Scoop Up Net and bench the 6th again to get ahead in the prize cards right here, and holding 3 Crushing Hammers still, some in the hand, some in the deck to deny more energy. I think the Crushing Hammers might have decided this series.
Yeah, it was so massive in game number 1. In order to keep that Goodra absolutely unpowered, Melanie is now attaching an energy, drawing 3 cards. It's all looking so good for Cameron Shenoy. We thought that VikaVolt would have a much harder time in this matchup, and he's been able to play the same game back-to-back. 2 minutes left on the clock, and Cameron just needs to start reaching out and taking these final prizes. Paralyzing Bolt deals 60 damage to the Comfey thanks to Lightning Symbol from Zapdos, and now it's back over to Simon, who has played 2 items this game or something, 2 items this entire series.
Yeah, a few items on their first turn, but that's about it. And you can really tell by the body language of both players, right? Simon sitting back in their chair, a little bit slumped, not like realizing that there's very little they can do, whereas Cameron is like very on top of the table, very aware of what their opponent is doing, and with a very confident posture, knowing that this is his game to lose.
Yeah, absolutely surreal. The one VikaVolt player that's still left alive in the tournament, just moments away from claiming that top cut spot. 1 minute left on the clock. We just need this to properly conclude. Cameron Shenoy's up 1 game, so if the time does run out, we'll be able to claim victory just by being up 1-0 in the set. But I think that, you know, with proper play, Cameron can get those final 2 knockouts. That's what I'm looking forward to seeing, Pablo.
Yeah, certainly Cameron has enough to close out this
with
game
the plus
very
3
easily. Yeah, I mean, they do have access to Zigzagoon, as I mentioned, next turn that could get the knockout on the Comfey, and then the Pokemon that Simon could promote would be the Goodra to try and survive the hit from VikaVolt. Everything else would go down to the second attack, Super Zap Cannon, but outside of that, there's not much else to do here. And 31 points for Cameron will put them in the bubble, so it could depend on who they played and how they did to see if Cameron makes it all the way to the top 8. I know you've been rooting for the single VikaVolt deck. I would love to see it in top 8 as well.
Yeah, just to get into the bubble, though, so things still aren't settled, and Cameron might even be using all the good luck in this match. Might not have been anything left for the top cut regardless. Koros' experiment comes through. We get a nice attach and retreat into the Cramorant. 110 damage onto VikaVolt V. Now it's back over. Cameron Shenoy with the Zapdos can just immediately return, knock out this Cramorant, but has so many cards in the hand, even after that Judge.
Yeah, with the Zigzagoon, though, it's going to be KO the Comfey and attack KO the Cramorant for the game. And Cameron gets to 31 match points, making that bubble for top 8.
Oh, wait a minute. What? That looked proper sequence to me.
Yeah.
There we go. 2 prizes taken in 1 turn to close out that set. 2-0. This man is in the bubble.
Yeah, bubble time.